While the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic seems to be ravaging our country, Nigeria, and the world at large, research have shown that transparency of data plays a key role in providing a clear roadmap in dealing with the problem. On this note, I personally welcome you to another exciting edition of Tosin and Friends, which serves as a platform that discusses issues that deal with the socioeconomic and political development of our dear country, Nigeria, and the entire globe, of course. I am Tosin Akinwede, and joining me for today's interview is Mr. Joseph Agunbiade, who is a co-founder of BudgIT, which is a Nigerian civic organization that applies technology for citizen engagement and also strives for societal change. He also serves as the Chancellor of University. And guess what today? Today we would be focusing on the import of transparent data in dealing with COVID-19 in Nigeria. So good afternoon, Mr. Jones Agunbiade, and how are you doing today?
I'm very good.
Yeah, and how are you keeping safe with the whole COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I'm trying my best. I think the worst is over, sort of.
Yeah.
It's getting better every day, so.
I see. Okay, so yeah, let's go straight into the interview. As a co-founder of BudgIT, which is one of the non-governmental organizations charged with the responsibility of ensuring accountability and transparency in government dealings, how would you assess the steps taken by the government to deal with the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country?
So, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
So, as an organization, I'll look at it from that perspective. What we've done is we looked at it as that it's not been very transparent enough overall, especially with the announcement, the daily announcement of the numbers of people that have been infected. We think that it will be better if they give, further breakdown than just giving us a lump sum. We want like a more detailed demography, what age group are they, and all of those sort of information. And so we've looked at that, and because of that concern, we decided to ourselves set up a website, civic.org/COVID-19 tracker, basically to be able to gather as much data that we can. And then we also made provision for the public to be able to upload the information that they have. The truth of the matter is that it's the public, it's the citizens that have been affected. And so if individuals will come and tell us that this is their own personal experience, we think we will get more data than just counting on in the institution the government has set up. So that has been our own way of looking at it. So the second part is also, of course, the finance component of tracking. We also, as much as how much data is out there, we've put it on the website to just show people who are pledged and those that are donating. So those are the basic information that so far I think we've been able to put together out there while we also wait for individual stories.
Okay, then. So could you actually tell me how effective the mechanisms you've put in place has been so far, like the success stories BudgIT has recorded? Yeah.
So the truth is you have to be very careful when it comes to health data. You even if you get certain information, you have to now further investigate it.
Okay.
Try to get like multiple people confirming the same information. So in as much as we have collected some data, the ones that is on our website are data that are publicly available right now, as much as possible. And then to further drive that home, we have decided to announce a hackathon, a 48-hour hackathon, where people will now come in. So you've been telling us your stories, your experience. Come work on turn it into a technology solution. All right, how do we better represent this evidence that we are presenting on transparency and accountability? So in the next couple of weeks, we'll be expecting people we're doing the hackathon. I'll confirm the exact date to you. So we're now saying come and tell us, express. When you are relating stories from other people, it's not as good as when they tell you themselves. And so we're creating a platform where people are going to win money that will support their ideas so that they can push it out themselves. So basically creating a platform so that even we ourselves are completely transparent. When you put data and numbers out there, you can easily be accused as, just trying to attack the government. But now we're saying, come tell us your real story live through our own platform. So from the outcome of the hackathon, we hope that we would have been able to express fully our expected outcome, right now it might not be the best because most of the data we have are also publicly available on the platform. So the other information that we have that might be subjective, we're hoping that the hackathon will help us throw more light on it, so that we can give a more confirmed data set.
Okay, thank you very much for that piece of information you've given. Yeah, so what are the loopholes you feel are inherent in the government's approach towards combating the outbreak of the virus?
I think the very first thing, there are several, so we can look at it from different angles.
I want those angles, actually.
Yeah, so the first thing is that for such a big country, but the biggest black nation on earth, for us not to even have our own solution. When you look at the recent racism issues here and there, part of the reason why the world keeps disrespecting the black is because we have not really taken our responsibility as the largest black nation on earth. So imagine a situation where we have every year in the budget, we have a component of it that goes to certain institutions that have been established for research. But when COVID-19 came, there was nothing. They could not even tell us that this is what they are doing towards it. And the only people who had confidence to come out to say they are working towards it are herbalists, and all of those people, which is not wrong. It's more of an African way thing. And so, if I must say, the biggest loophole is that we didn't even have any way. We have some sort of preparation. I've been hearing a lot of stories about preparation for outbreaks, pandemics like this, and all of that, infectious diseases and all that, which we have one in Yaba. But when it happened, nobody was saying anything again. And so when things like this happen, we get to see the real reality of what government is. And so that's one big loophole that we have as a country. That is one. Secondly, I think the way we approached it, if you asked me, we would have probably have our own, we just copied and pasted ideas from the West. They created lockdown, we did lockdown, and you see, we couldn't track or measure to say the lockdown gave us this exact accurate numbers of, I know it would have saved lives and all that. But if there were more information as to the age bracket, as to the areas where it's more, within certain states, just give us a blanket number. And sometimes, when you look at the number, there was an attempt to show the number of breakdown in Lagos State. Mm-hmm. And Lagos mainland, which is Yaba, had the highest number. And you and I know that cannot be true. The only reason why that number would have been that high is because the Center for Infectious Disease is in Yaba. So basically picking that number is not an accurate representation of Yaba. And so overall, our preparation, either medically or in terms of proper preparation, by our established institution who collects budget every year for things like this. And of course, the last is our financing, how we finance it. I think, private sector is always coming to the rescue some way in the country. But I think government as an entity, I can't totally blame them, to be sincere. The situation of our finance, because that's a different conversation now. But if you look at it as it is, we don't really have that so much of our resources as a country. And so I wouldn't blame them so much. But I think we need to be prepared because these are things that happens every now and then. Just that this seems to be, much amplified. And so we need to have budgets that cater for emergencies like this so that immediately we can swing into action. We're also very slow. I think that was one of the responding. We didn't lock the airport early enough. Most pundits have said that if the airport was shut down on time, we wouldn't have had this much infection in the country.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So you spoke about transparency of financial transactions during this whole COVID-19 pandemic. So yeah, I would like to ask you to assess the transparency inherent in the financial sector. We've seen a lot of donations, we've seen a lot of international donor funding coming into the country. Could you actually assess it? Could you say, oh, you are pleased with the way you think the federal government is spending the money?
So, for several years as an organization, I'm talking of BudgIT now, we've been pushing the idea of open contracting, the procurement processes to ensure that we know how exactly they spend money. The first thing you will see was when they were doing the palliative. For a long time, it takes government a longer time normally when there are no emergencies like this to give money, But when there is now an emergency, when everything is on lockdown, and you refuse to use technology to distribute finance, you're giving physically, and within a very short time, say you have distributed such a ridiculous billion of naira, such a huge number. For us, we don't think that process is transparent enough, and so that's not accepting. This money belongs to the citizens, it's commonwealth. It doesn't belong to the president. It doesn't belong, and they keep hiding this information, So you just think that we need to do better. It will be wrong of me to just focus on the pandemic alone to say that, okay, they were not transparent. The government is not transparent, across board in terms of spending. It's been very, very terrible. There have been a lot of improvements recently in governance in terms of some few things that we have seen because we run tracker and we track capital projects. There are a lot of people playing in that space also trying to expose certain things, in governance and all that. However, procurement process, we need to know the contractors that you are giving money to. We need to know the actual amount. We need to know your expectation in terms of what exact for this particular contractor. If you tell me that Joseph and Co is paid 2 billion naira to supply XYZ, okay, we know Joseph's address. So if we multiply it and we know that this 2 billion stuff is supposed to be 200 million, we know the margin. So government actually have a structure for procurement. I think about 25% of whatever the contract is what you should make as your profit margin. So if we have the law, we have a structure that exists, and we're not just scaling into a point where the citizens can be confident, I think it's a shortcoming, it's a big problem for our government. So right now we don't have so much details, and that's why I'm lamenting like this. So like I said, the open procurement process has been non-existent. It's something we've been pushing for. The way we achieve for open NAS to get to know the budget of NAS, National Assembly. We think that is something that in a couple of years we'll be able to get more information. So a few days ago, we did a webinar session on open treasury. So I think gradually they are listening, but we're not there yet. So if we can get that breakdown, which we are still working very hard to be able to give exact breakdown, like we do for capital projects, government have been providing. Eventually we get to know, try to push. We leverage the FOI to request for some of those details. We hope that right now it's very hot, might not be easy. We need to know the list of the contractors. We need to know who is who. Then we'll start requesting for some of those exact details.
Okay, yeah. So I need to know the challenges BudgIT as an organization encounters when they want to get the details of this whole government spending. Like, what are the unique challenges BudgIT encounters?
It's like I said, these guys sometimes think that it's their own personal money. They behave like it's theirs and all of those kind of things. And so, especially for the one that we are able to get some level of clarity to be sure that the money has been released, because there's one thing to have a budget, it's another thing to know that this money has been released. And sometimes the people who are involved. So you look at a project that is capital project, for example, and or what's it called now, constituency project. You see the senator is involved, you see a ministry is involved, and sometimes you need to be sure who exactly had the money, who paid the contractor, how much was the contractor paid. And so when you get those level of information, sometimes what we have to do is to organize town hall meeting, because it might be difficult. You can do an FYP and the guy will say, what are you guys talking about? I don't know what you are talking about. And so we get to engage their own constituents, and then the people in their constituency to write them officially to ask for this breakdown, say what exactly happened, on this spending. So that way we begin to, we are able to extract information exactly how it is. Because in the budget, there might have been a budget for it, but how much exactly was released for this project? So those are basic challenges. So the point of being able to, from Ministry of Finance and all the people who are responsible for releasing this money, to be able to get the exact figures that was released for the project. And then, of course, getting whoever got the money, especially, why should a Congress person? Sheung gave a breakdown the other day that it's a concept that we copied from the United States of America, where congressmen appoint projects from their constituency, and then they get the money to go execute it. But we are not there yet. So trying to copy that has been, for us, in all our years of tracking, it's been one of the biggest places where this corruption happens. These guys do this project, and in some cases, they put, so there's a recent case, one we are tracking, and the guy puts his mother's face on the building, named the building after his mother. as though he was donating it to the community, but it was actually a constituency project that was, paid for by by people's tax, by taxpayers' money. And so we tracked and exposed him, and he quickly removed his mom's face, and there was still some. So the citizens took it up by themselves. And so those challenges will basically leverage on working with the locals, for whoever it is, the constituency that specific project relates with, and work with them. Because the truth is that we can't be fighting government. Our work is advocacy. So as much as possible, we must remain in that space of advocacy and not just going head on. We must inform, educate. Our job is to educate the citizens themselves, particular people in the constituency, through town hall meetings and all that. And so we've enjoyed relative success. There are some of them that are very straightforward. You request through FOI, you do FOI request, and they actually respond immediately. While some actually need us to bring them to the public, before they respond to us.
Oh, I see. Yes. Thank you very much for that exhaustive explanation. Yes. Yeah. So research has shown that in order to help make better informed decisions about coronavirus, government should be publishing comprehensive machine-readable data sets. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how well do you think the Nigerian government is trying to play in this space? Do you think they are playing well, fair enough?
So in this case, you mean NCDC, the guys who are responsible for that. Mm-hmm. But I guess those guys are sort of incapacitated. I don't know the details of the law that established them, the act, but somehow they don't do that. They don't give that level of information. And in Nigeria today, anything on, if the president calls you and say you cannot do that, then you cannot do that. And sometimes not just the president, there are other people who tell you that this is what you can do. I may not be able to tell exactly, but there are a lot of powerful people in the country. The country where you have a lot of single individuals that are very powerful, who just call the shots at the expense of the whole millions of citizens in the country. So I think that has been the biggest constraint. It's not, when you look at the guy himself in charge of NCDC, it looks like a great guy. He's got a very great antecedent, his work. I don't think he wants to jeopardize his career. But, when you work for someone, you have to listen to your boss. And so I think that has been the challenge, where these guys are not doing what they're supposed to do because they know the best practice. So what you're talking about is the best practice, but we are not doing it because, of course, look at Kogi State. There is coronavirus in Kogi State. I'm speaking authoritatively.
How did you get the findings?
Because I'm from Kogi State.
Okay.
And, the part of my state where I'm from, few people have talked about, some families that had, coronavirus somewhere around Kabah and all of that. And it's a shame, that, some people in the hospitals have also said that there have been cases like that. So they refuse to investigate it, because for heaven's sake, it doesn't take anything away from the governor or whosoever says that they shouldn't. And we heard that they chased NCDC away from the state, as if, we need to practice true federalism. We need to be able to let, or proper democracy, if I must say, information must be available. And it's not the only state. Cross River State too has been like, the truth of the matter is that I doubt it that this thing did not spread to every state. There's no how it wouldn't have at least one or two people. But why are they hiding the information? Guess what? They're not going to get more money. It's not going to make them lose anything. But these guys just, and it shows broadly, it's a big problem we have in our side. It's a cultural problem. We hide information we don't need to hide. Oh, we are pregnant. You don't want somebody else to know. Oh, you are this. And now you are in the government, forgetting that you are not just a governor by yourself or president by yourself. It's the people that elected you. You're just the people's representative. And then you want to block access to information. And so it's a shame. It's not a shame that certain people have used, allowed themselves to be an instrument of opacity that, we're suffering from. So that for me is, I don't even answer your question.
Yes, I think you did.
Okay.
You did.
All right. You want to repeat the question again?
Okay. So I asked you about the fact that research has shown that in order to make better informed decision about coronavirus, government should be publishing comprehensive machine-readable data sets. How well do you think the Nigerian government has played in this space?
Yeah, so like I said, it's been poorly done. And so what I need to do, what I would like to do is to challenge more citizens to, because see, these guys are not there. They are not the one manning these positions. So even if your boss had asked you not to, you know that the citizens are supposed to have this information. Leak it.
But no one wants to lose his or her job. So
somehow you find a way to leak it. We don't even have that advanced technology. I'm telling you. So the truth of the matter is that it's a shame. We need to be radical about truth. I was reading to Ray Diallo. He said the only way you can, build a successful organization is through radical truth. You have to be radical about trying to be sincere. And truth is not relative. Most times we mistake truth, for truth is not, it is not a relative idea. The truth of the matter, the public must know. And if you are afraid you want to keep your jobs and all, it's always very difficult. But the truth of the matter is that people should get a little more radical about releasing information. Look at the blacks. They got tired of the whole racism in America, and the whole 50 states, people were protesting. So a lot of people defied a lot of the things happening there. When you're tired of the situation, and so what it means is we are not tired of these things. Our government are playing with our head. The jokers. A lot of people got infected just because they didn't get enough information about this whole.
Yeah, you're very right. But speaking about radicality, or being radical, I would like to know the steps BudgIT is taking in championing the cause of being radical in this current era. You're saying you don't have access to the data you need and all, but there should be some form of radicality you guys.
Yeah, so when you talk about being radical doesn't mean to be stupid. It doesn't mean to necessarily go against the law and all of that, So you still work within the law, framework of the law and all of that. So what we have done is to create a framework, create a platform, and that is why we created the hackathon. It's radical because, this is our first of its kind. It's a remote sort of hackathon for the 8 hours. We're getting people, we're committing some of our money to people to say, hey, you've got this idea, you think that you can help government to be more accountable, more transparent about this COVID-19. So like I said, it's individuals who work for government. It's individuals who are the brothers of this who work for the government. They have relatives when they get back home that they actually can share information with, especially when it's not meant to be hidden, but they just decide to hide it from people. And so that's my thinking exactly. To say, to be radical is to create a platform for people who might have this information, naturally will not be heard. We've got good followership on Twitter, we've got good followership across all social media platforms. And so when you come and you bring this truth to us, truth that's fact, then we can share and get more engagement. It is basically by mobilizing more people, advocating, telling people these things more and more against the natural convention. We are naturally black people, we are very docile. So the little effort we are putting in, I believe, is relatively radical enough. Committing, this period, there's not so much money, but we're willing to commit to say, hey, we'll support your idea. You see what we do in our acceleration work at Civic Hive. Basically championing, pushing people who naturally would not have a chance, basically, to be able to push. Man, you'll be surprised at what people can do. That quiet guy on your street, when you empower him a little with additional resources, information to know that this is what the law says about this thing, that is being radical.
Okay. Thank you very much about your extensive explanation once again. Yeah. So, judging by the data released by the NCDC on a daily basis, do you think the Presidential Task Force directive to gradually reopen the economy and the places of worship is a step in the right direction?
So that is a very relative thing, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
While I would have, on a normal day, I would have said, no, we shouldn't open, places where people can gather together, where people want to hug themselves, shake, minimize, especially schools and religious centers. But the truth is, people don't even have information. If you give proper breakdown of information to say, so somebody said recently that 90% of the people that were infected were above a certain age group, and so percentage of people that are, most people that got killed, or all the people that got killed by COVID-19 were people that had pre-existing conditions, and a lot of those break down. If those information exist, then people can make a better informed decision. In the world we are today, and why the world is turning towards artificial intelligence, machine learning, is because the world wants to make smarter decisions. You can't tell me not to travel. You can't tell me not to marry an Igbo girl. You can't tell me exactly why. You must give me a specific, direct information so that you don't give me a blanket comment and say all black people are wicked, all men are useless, all those kind of things. No, you have to give me very specific the information so that I can still navigate the condition. The fact that there's a pandemic does not mean that we'll be locked down forever. A lot of people probably died more of hunger this period. A lot more people die more of sickness because they're afraid to go to the hospital than where they would have gotten treatment, And with more information coming out, especially globally, people are seeing that. In fact, I've seen a report that says that COVID-19 is not exactly a virus, that it's a bacteria.
Oh, yeah. Source?
You said?
The source?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just telling you, when the source you're supposed to trust is not consistent with their information, then I'll be left to go sort my own information. I mean, to think about it. And the guys that gave me that information, they were like, just think about it. There's sanitizer and all the sanitizer is for bacteria. Yeah. How come it can wash and you won't get infected by just using sanitizer? And they gave all the characteristics. And I started rethinking it. I mean, I'm supposed to be educated. I'm supposed to be someone that will, but nobody has been able, everybody has been playing trial and error. And so, what should people do? Let me tell you something. When you think about religious centers, don't think about the churches, the tithes, that people want to go back. No. In these religious organizations, there are people who are employed there. They are staff of those organizations, and they have to resume work. They have rent to pay. Landlords don't stop rent. As a matter of fact, the rent of my building, of my office building, the landlord increased the rent by 5,000 per square meter, additional to it, from 25,000 per square meter to 30,000 square meter. Ridiculous. We have to contend it. It's ridiculous. So people have rent to pay. They have to feed their children. Even schools that moved online and they are doing WhatsApp in the name of moving online, they are still asking for full school fees. So you either withdraw your children and start doing permanent homeschooling, or you have to pay school fees. Are you with me?
Yeah, I do understand.
Federal government tried. They reduced so they've created a loan. The Central CBN had done a loan of about 9%. They reduced it further to 5%. They asked the normal commercial loan from 26% to maybe 19 or something percent. They did a few things, okay? And I'm hearing people assessing some of this credit and all that. But what happens across board? The companies who probably themselves took loan, and they know they will pay back this loan, and they can now afford to say they are not collecting rent from you. And think about it. So the religious centers, they also pay rent. They have to pay back. The staff, employees, some of them have 20, 50, 100, 200 employees. So those are the things we think about. The schools also have this thing. So people have to get back. And if you ask me on my own personal, I'm not speaking as BudgIT now. Personally, I think people should go back to work. It's better they become sick and get well, because how many people are dying anyway? People are going to die anyway. People are dying anyway. So let people get back to work. And let people not die of the other things that we've not come to talk about.
And unfortunately, there's not enough data to show that due to this lockdown, this number of people have become hungry. This number of people have died as a result of not accessing proper medical care.
We've not been a data country, culturally, as in Africa, black people generally. We've not really, we don't have, we can blame the British for destroying coming in 15 something to destroy some of the things that we have. But is it every kingdom they destroyed? What happened to other kingdom? Yeah. Is it every kingdom? Then after they destroyed it, what happened after that time? If it was our culture. So we need to develop it. We need to be smarter people. And, we shouldn't just be copying Igbo people. No. So they're talking about ventilators. They're talking about all of those things. We literally tweeted at Elon Musk, begging him for ventilator. That was a shame. When people could, they even open source, MIT, Harvard, a lot of those people open source the ventilator that you could build around $500. And there was no necessarily, Lagos State, I heard through last week, gave some guys some money to build some things. Lagos State even tried. But I think it should have been more. It should have been more a federal might thing. Benue State did something. One guy built a respirator and they called the amount of ridiculous millions of naira. It was so ridiculous. And you see they've awarded contracts. Somebody has eaten money and all that. To that state, every opportunity is an avenue to steal money, to do all of that. Yeah. So Lagos State gave, there's a guy from Ferry, he's very popular on social media. I built stuff, prototyping. And they say, oh, they gave him $1,000. And if he can get up to 15 million naira or something like that. So we need basically more and more of such things where people are responding. We need to have data. We need to have research centers. We need to finance these things. We need to, more people. BudgIT is not enough.
Yeah.
For data. We need young people to develop data startup. You get data startup that will be able to, change the dynamics around this thing.
In your own view, what are the expected data projections you believe the outbreak of COVID-19 would lead to in affecting a change in our country's social, economic, and political framework?
Okay, yeah. So a few things have already started happening. Yeah. The deregulation of the oil sector, the the new law granting states judiciary and what's it called now, to be independent relatively. We are seeing some revolutionary laws being passed. Some good executive orders and all of that. These are things that normally wouldn't have had. COVID-19 impacted us. Our revenue dropped. We begin to think inwards. We're not thinking of other alternative sources. We've been saying it theoretically, but now we're doing it practically. The other day I was watching the TV. I saw that government is now investing a lot on mining. I have concerns. I have reservation about investing a lot on mining, which is just like oil and gas also, but at least it's somewhat like we're moving away from what we have been used to. So somehow it's helping us to look inwards. It's helping us generally, that's talking from the government side, making new laws, knowing that it's no longer sustainable to run government. The cost of government is so expensive. I'm expecting things like cutting down heavily on, as they cut the budget, I was expecting that the National Assembly budget needs to be cut down, heavily.
And I'm still trying to actually rationalize the reason why the government would still approve 27 billion naira for the provision of National Assembly. Yeah,
it's simple because these guys you have to always make them happy. Politics is a game of make me happy, make you happy, rob my this and I rob your own, and everybody will be happy. Which is where we're still playing that party game. It hasn't really hit hard on us, to be candid. Even though we are seeing the numbers now, I'm thinking more of the next guys who will be coming. Towards the end of this political cycle, you see that impact more, and then it's more long term. The impact is actually long term.
How do you mean?
The COVID-19 impact is actually going to be long term. A lot of the things we won't see them now. And then when you think about the private sector, a lot of companies are rethinking. For us, we're thinking the other day, we're about to come back when the lockdown was eased to the office. And we asked ourselves a question. Why should we go back to the office? The productivity of our staff actually went up. So why are we going back to the office? So you begin to ask questions. Why should I go and pay another 10 billion naira rent, for my office? Why should I go and do that? People are more productive. What it means is people will now have more remote work. People now working at home, so real estate industry will be impacted because commercial properties value will drop down because people will start leaving their properties that they are using before. Residential, maybe you need more people, or people will even start leaving Lagos because now I can work remotely. More so people can get international jobs because if Google and Facebook, they've announced that they start going to be working remotely. It therefore means that if they announce next employment, they can consider more Nigerians than they have ever done because, we cost them less anyway. I have friends that live in Silicon Valley moving to Houston, to more, less expensive states because of this whole thing. So the same thing is happening in Nigeria. People are going to move to Ogun State. People are going to move to their hometown once there's internet and power. And so overall, the impact will be, we can't really describe it. I don't want to be like a futurist to over-predict what will happen or what will not happen because there are several variables that will drive this. If post-COVID, we have a very great stimulus plan, for businesses, for, to be able to quickly do stuff, because we're usually slow, really slow about responding to things. And that's why the impact will be felt more. But if we are able to release a lot of money, get people busy and all of that, like the Great Depression in the US and all that, I think we'll probably be able to recover. Else, the impact will be actually very, I hate to be a prophet of doom, so, but that's my own thinking, the way I see the impact of post-COVID-19 on the country.
Thank you very much for answering our questions, and really hope Nigeria gets to learn one or two things from this whole outbreak. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones.
Yes,
Agunbiade. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.